Hello everyone and welcome to round 2 of the European Virtual Funcup Winter Series. My name's Chris McCarthy. Joining me as ever is going to be Guillaume Alvarez. And Guillaume, this a unique challenge for the drivers as we come to the Nordschleife for the second round. It couldn't be any different to where we started the championship just a couple of weeks ago. But what a challenge this is going to be. I mean, in times where we are in lockdown and we can't go racing, esports gives us a chance to try things that we would perhaps never be able to do, and this could be one of them. Funcup around the Nordschleife. 30 seconds to go then, just 10 days after our first round. We're going to get ready to go racing now here for round 2 of the European Virtual Funcup Winter Series. On the front row, Riley Phillips versus Piers Stockton. Championship leader Max Leonard will start from third place. 20 drivers out there in total, 30 minutes ahead of us for the first of 2 races this evening. The lights are now coming on, and for the first time in 2021, European Virtual Funcup racing is underway, and Riley Phillips leads us as we go down towards turn number 1 for the first time. There in the 256 is Piers Stockton. Max Leonard slots into third place, and it's a single file train as they make their way down towards turn number 1 for the first time. Andy Dawson sits in 4th place. Piers Stockton trying to get down the inside of Riley Phillips, who ran just a little bit wide, but he will still lead the way as we come out of the second corner and now make our way down towards turn number 3. Leonard right in there in 3rd place, but he himself coming under pressure now that we concentrate on our 2 leaders. Piers Stockton, what's his tactic going to be here? Is he going to try and work with Riley Phillips as they have done in qualifying, or is he going to go for the lead? I think it's going to be the latter, because Riley Phillips was a little bit tight through the right-hander, and that's opened the door now for Piers Stockton as they go down towards the hairpin, and Piers Stockton is going to make his way down the inside and into the race lead, and just like that, Riley Phillips is going to drop to 4th place. Leonard has gone through into 2nd place and Dawson into 3rd, and Phillips has hit big problems here, and he is now tumbling down the order as we come through the Michael Schumacher S.
Et c'est parti donc pour la première de ces 2 épreuves ici sur la Nordschleife. Si vous nous rejoignez maintenant, c'est le bon moment. Et comme vous pouvez le voir, Piers Stockton sur votre écran au volant de l'Evo 3 numéro 256 a pris la poudre d'escampette devant Riley Phillips. Riley Phillips qui vient de dégringoler littéralement dans la hiérarchie, avec un gros problème malheureusement pour celui qui s'est lancé depuis la pole position pourtant, mais qui a perdu gros dans les premiers virages à l'approche de la chicane. Ici, Michael Schumacher. Piers Stockton en tête donc du peloton à l'entame de ce qui sera 3 tours, seulement 3 tours en effet, vous avez bien entendu, dans cette première épreuve. Là, voilà, voici ici donc la chicane de Michael Schumacher, renommé après donc le septuple champion du monde auquel on pense beaucoup. Et voilà ici la plongée sur la gauche, c'est la Nordschleife qui s'ouvre, l'enfer vert, et c'est 21 km sous le commandement de Piers Stockton. Maxime Minard en 2e position, volant la numéro 50. Excellent départ pour le leader du championnat devant Andy Dawson ainsi que Dan Farrow en 4e position. Tom Kempik 5e, 6e place pour un de nos nouveaux venus devant Axel Soyer. James Shepard 8e, Xavier Vell 9, et nous avons Riley Phillips en 10e position.
Well, unfortunately, we've had a problem for Riley Phillips in the early stages of this race, a PC problem for him, and unfortunately he is now running down in 16th place. But we jump on board with one of our 3 championship contenders after just the first round, and that is Max Leonard, one of the 3 drivers currently fighting for the title, split between just 2 points between the 3 of them, and it's Max Leonard chasing down Piers Stockton ahead of us. But don't discount Andy Dawson. He may be his first appearance in the championship this season, but if we jump back to 3rd place, we'll see Andy Dawson is right in this fight with Piers Stockton and Max Leonard, and there he is just behind us. Dave Farrow is up in the background. He's being closely pursued by Tom Kemping, and the top 5 certainly are breaking away from the rest of the field. If we go back, and under a lot of pressure is Axel Soyers, and Philippe Lodiquet is off. Philippe Lodiquet, a small off for him, he rejoins the circuit, but that's going to allow Axel Soyers to close in. Oh dear, and contact there Nordschleife has found himself briefly onto the grass, and we've got a spin. 2 spinners in the background. Schinkel is one of them. Schinkel now trying to get himself going again, just trying to identify the other driver that was caught up in that as they make their way. I think it was Pierre-Andre Guillaume, sadly, who was the other driver to get caught up. We have a look at Gerard Richard here in 11th place. There is Pierre-Andre Guillaume. He is now back going again, but a very close going on for place. We'll jump up to that in just a second. Riley Phillips is back up to 12th place, but we'll go and have a look at this battle for 9th place. Here is Riley. You can see he's up to 13th. He's now, in fact, just gone past Axel Sawyer, so he's up to 12th place as we're going to look at the close fight going down in the latter half of the top 10. Xavier Ville having a very good race here. He's got himself up into 7th. He's doing a great job. We're looking at the Wasp car, though, of Jay Shepherd running strongly in the top 10 in his first showing of this season. So doing a good job so far. Here is Max Leonard, though. He's currently in 2nd. Go on board, though, with Riley Phillips because he's on a charge back through the field. A PC problem. Our pole sitter dropping down to almost last place, and we are on board with him as he now makes his way back into the top 10. So 9th place now for Riley, and ahead of him next, there you can see in the distance 4 drivers within arm's length, you could argue, and they are Shepherd, Veal, Kemping and Chatelain. So lots for Riley to chase down, but we've had a change of lead. Let's go and have a look at that. Max Leonard has taken the lead away from Piers Stockton, and we have a new race leader in our championship leader, Max Leonard.
Une bataille à 3 superbe là-bas avec Jay Shepherd qui a tenté peut-être de s'infiltrer. Tom Kempy qui est légèrement tassé sur la droite. Et ça se contacte là-bas. Il a sorti de piste pour Xavier Ville. Xavier Ville qui se fait légèrement, mais peut-être même de manière assez musclée, poussé vers l'extérieur de la piste. Le voilà, vous l'avez à l'écran. Malheureusement, Xavier Ville qui va perdre très très gros de l'aventure. Alors qu'ils étaient à 3 de front au terme de cette ligne droite. Et malheureusement, ça n'est pas passé pour Xavier Ville qui était pourtant. Et oh, il y a des nouveaux soucis malheureusement pour Ville qui, vous l'avez vu à l'instant, vient de taper le rail de sécurité avant le retour sur la ligne droite des stands et d'arrivée. Donc la malchance pour Xavier Ville qui se battait pour une potentielle 7e position. Mais ce n'est pas passé avec Tom Kempy qui, un accrochage, a résulté en une autre.
We're going to now go back to our leaders. It's side by side between Max Leonard and Piers Stockton. And Piers Stockton it is to the inside. Is he about to retake this race lead from Leonard? I think he is. And Piers Stockton hits the front once again, but it isn't over just yet because Max Leonard still to his inside. All of this playing into the hands of Andy Dawson, who's been able to keep a manageable gap to the top 2, and Andy Dawson is only going to get closer with these two still side by side as they make their way uphill. To the left of screen is Stockton. Nearest to us in the 50 is Max Leonard, but 2 of our championship contenders going head to head, and they're still side by side after about 9 or 10 corners. It is still as you were. Leonard to the inside now as we hit a left. Stockton finally tucks back in behind, and Andy Dawson, let's have a little look on board with Andy Dawson, and we will see he is now right with the top 2 as they make their way down through the quick left-hander and into the heavy braking zone at this next left. So 3 for the lead, and then a 10.5 second gap back to 4th place, which is Dave Farrow.
I'd like to say, Chris, that at the moment it seems to me that Andy Dawson has the best position in this 3-way battle, because he leaves Max Leonard and Piers Stockton battling against one another for the win, but he keeps observing them and keeping his distance. But of course, the task for him is to try not to have too much distance between himself and 2 others. Otherwise, he won't have enough time or to try to open the door and to get ahead. But at the moment, he stays quite, firmly out, let's say, out of the battle, but not keeping too much distance from the leaders. But I'm sure he's waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity to dive around the inside of the 2, or provoke a mistake and maybe get ahead. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, indeed. Now this is round 2 between Riley and Jay Shepherd. Jay Shepherd running wide. Riley's going to want to try and get through, and this is what we were talking about in qualifying. This is how hard it is to overtake. The difference between these 2 in qualifying was fairly large, but Riley just can't find a way through. Jay Shepherd isn't giving him any space, isn't making any mistakes, And so Riley currently is having to tuck back in behind, but it looks like he got a better run through that uphill right-hander there. He might now find a gap on the left, but he's deciding he wants to work with Jay Shepherd and push each other along. So let's do a full run through of where we are in this race then. Let's start with our race leader, which is Max Leonard. Max Leonard is also our championship leader, and he is currently leading the way. Piers Stockton is second. We now look at Andy Dawson on his debut, who looks set to perhaps take a podium, if not a race win, if things should fall to pieces just ahead of him. Andy Dawson very much in the fight for the win. Fourth is Dave Farrow, all on his own at the moment. I think he'd like it to stay that way. Fifth place behind him is Tom Kemping, who has just made his way past David Chatelain, who currently sits in sixth place. Seventh place is now Riley Phillips. He has now got ahead of eighth place, who is Jay Shepherd, after that earlier contact which saw Jay Shepherd have a spin. We have talked a lot about him so far this evening, but sitting in ninth place is Axel Sawyers, and he would have hoped that the battle between Riley and Jay would have continued so that he could close the gap. But being on your own is never a bad thing around the Nordschleife, especially when you're in the top 10. Philip Lodike then rounds out the top 10. Behind that, we've just had a change a little bit further back. In between that and the change, though, is 11th, which is Gerard Richard. Gerard Richard having a fairly good race so far. Let's see if he can get himself into the top 10. Eric Steinlin is then in 12th place. There we can see Gerald Richard just coming through the carousel. Here is Eric. He is in 12th place. He 15 seconds behind Gerard Richard. 13th place is Ian Veremans, and as we can see, he's coming under pressure, and that pressure is coming from 14th place, which is Xavier Ville. Xavier Ville, a bit of a mixed race for him so far. 15th place is then Pierre-Andre Guillaume. He is running in 15th and coming under gradual pressure from Stephen Spittals, who sits in 16th place. Pierre-Andre Guillaume, so forget he had an instant earlier in the race, so he on the recovery. Spittals started all the way at the back of the field. Then in 17th place is Mathis Besson, 5 seconds back from Stephen Spittals. He runs in 17th. Then it's Alstein next along. Schinkel is in 19th place. Lancelot Alstein, there we can see 18th. There's Schinkel having a spin. Nico Perez 20th. And we've had a change for lead. So just on cue, Piers Stockton has now hit the front once again to take the lead back from Max Leonard.
Maxime Leonard and Piers Stockton, 2 names for 1 victory.
Yep, we had change for 6th as well. So the grid for the next race is formed off the finishing positions of this one, with the top 6 reversed. So Riley Phillips, after that earlier incident, that PC problem that he had, has now got himself into 6th in a reverse grid pole. Oh dear, what's happened there? Now Max Leonard has just went stage right, and that has seen Piers Stockton go through. I've got a little bit scared there. I thought there'd been a major problem for Max Leonard, as he's now going to dive back down the inside here of Piers Stockton, coming into the right-hander. Piers left in the space, and Max Leonard will draw alongside on the exit, but the next corner is a left, so it's going to lend itself to Piers, and Leonard will slot back into 2nd place. But this is going to go all the way to the line, isn't it? Max Leonard versus Piers Stockton, with Andy Dawson in chase as we work our way back uphill now into the uphill left. And Piers Stockton has firmly asserted himself back into the lead of this race. But we've still got a long way to go. We may be on the last lap.
Reprendre l'avantage même sur le leader britannique, ce sera très très compliqué, même si... Oh, il est sorti de piste malheureusement pour Piers Stockton. Piers Stockton est out of this race. Mais peut-il repartir? En tout cas, il perd la victoire. Que s'est-il passé là-bas? Serait-il victime d'un accrochage, une légère touchette avec Maxime Leonard, ou alors y a-t-il eu faute de pilotage de la part de Piers Stockton? Les résultats, le voilà qui dégringole de la première à la 3e place. Il n'ira pas au-delà, Piers Stockton, puisque 16 secondes le séparent entre lui et Dave Farrow en 4e position. Mais tout s'écroule malheureusement pour Piers Stockton, qui croyait peut-être avoir course gagnée. En tout cas, il pensait pouvoir se protéger des assauts de Maxime Leonard. Eh bien, il n'en sera rien, puisqu'il verra le drapeau à damier, en tout cas en 3e position.
We got a great fight going on just outside the top 10 as well. All the points count. Don't forget, this is Eric Steinling versus Xavier Veal. Riley Phillips, let's go back to that though, because that is the battle for 5th place. Riley Phillips, I think, may have had a small off. He's now had to close this gap back down to Tom Kemping once again. And the fight for 5th is back on. Tom Kemping, let's see what he can do in trying to defend from Riley Phillips as we come into the latter stages now of this final lap, this race number 1 for the evening. Another 30-minute race for you coming straight up after this. The top 6 will be reversed, so it's likely these two will be our front row. Who's going to start pole and who's going to start second? Oh no, Riley's off. Rejoins once again. And that could be 5th confirmed for Kemping. Let's check in with our leaders as they're now making their way up towards the final stages of this lap, Guillaume. And it looks like Max Leonard has this one in the bag. There we can see the last few drivers now coming across the line. Lancelot Alstein will be 17th, Steven Spittau's 18th, Schinkel will be classified 19th. And Nico Perez in 20th place. But it is Max Leonard who takes the race win. A brilliant race.
Thank you, Chris. Voilà, chers amis, si vous nous rejoignez maintenant, eh bien, attachez vos ceintures, puisque d'ici quelques secondes, on sera parti pour 30 minutes de folie, comme lors de la première épreuve, avec 30 minutes de compétition entre les participants de la Virtual Funcup Winter Series. Avec en pole position, nous aurons Riley Phillips sur la droite de votre écran, avec Tom Kemping à ses côtés, Dave Farrow, Pierre Stockton, Andy Dawson, Maxime Lénard. C'est le top 6 inversé qui, d'ici quelques instants, vont s'élancer. Les feux rouges sont éteints. On est parti pour 30 minutes. La deuxième épreuve de la soirée sur le Nürburgring avec un excellent départ de la part de Riley Phillips. Tom Kemping à ses côtés, à l'assaut des premiers virages. Nous sommes sur le circuit F1, évidemment, le circuit moderne du Nürburgring, comme vous l'aurez aisément reconnu. On est parti pour 30 minutes de foire d'empoigne ici sur le Nürburgring avec Riley Phillips qui négocie la première épingle à cheveux en tête, le S. Ça se tamponne légèrement derrière Tom Kemping qui est parvenu à conserver la 3e position. Dave Farrow, 3e place juste derrière avec Dave Shepherd qui tente de s'infiltrer déjà dans ses premiers mètres de course. Maxime Lénard juste sur votre écran là-bas derrière avec la numéro 50 qui tente de passer sans encombre sur la pression du numéro 272, c'est Xavier Veil juste derrière, me semble-t-il. Un peu de contact avec Axel Soyer juste derrière et malheureusement, je pense que nous avions un des pilotes en dehors. C'était de la piste. Je n'ai pas pu distinguer de qui c'est, mais je pense que s'agissait-il de Jay Shepherd qui là-bas a connu quelques soucis. Non, c'était Pierre Stockton qui, je pense, était en dehors de la piste là-bas. On refera le point d'ici quelques instants une fois qu'ils auront conclu ce premier tour et il promet d'être très très long. Effectivement, Pierre Stockton, je pense, qu'il a perdu gros là-bas dans l'aventure, qui a rétrogradé en 4e position. On va en avoir la confirmation d'ici quelques instants. Mais quoi qu'il arrive, on est parti. Tom Kemping et Dave Farrow, 3e, 4e place. Riley Phillips, votre leader. Et pour l'instant, ça se passe bien pour le poleman, celui qui a terminé en 6e position de la première épreuve. On se souvient donc que ça ne s'était pas vraiment passé à la hauteur de ses espérances lors de l'entame de la course 1 et qu'il avait dû cravacher depuis la 2e place jusque dans le top 6. Mais le voilà en tête avec déjà 1 seconde presque d'avance sur Tom Kemping, en pleine bagarre avec Andy Dawson pour l'instant qui prend la 2e place à l'approche de la chicane Schumacher. Échange de position pour la 2e place avec Dawson devant Kemping, Pierre Stockton 4e, avant Dave Farrow, Maxime Lénard sous la pression de Philippe. Juste derrière Loriquet qui tente de passer, ce n'est pas encore le cas pour l'instant. Philippe Loriquet qui se maintient en 7e position devant Axel Soyer, Xavier Veil et Nico Perez. Et c'était Belega Jay Shepherd, malheureusement, qui a perdu gros dans l'épingle Dunlop, je pense, où il était sorti de la piste. Et gros contact là-bas entre Pierre Stockton et Tom Kemping. Kemping qui vient de perdre la 4e place et qui rétrograde au classement avec la pression de Dave Farrow juste derrière. Donc c'était un accrochage là-bas, effectivement très très serré. Et Maxime Lénard qui prend la 4e place à la poursuite de Pierre Stockton.
Well, what a hectic start to the race. Riley Phillips has done exactly what he would have hoped to have been doing after the downfalls he had in that first race, and that is get a gap early, take advantage of that reverse grid pole position and try and break away as Ian Veermans goes stage right and off the circuit and into the barriers, and as quickly as he went off, rejoins again and gets going, albeit now under a lot of pressure. We've had Axel Sawyers running into trouble and round he goes. Axel Sawyers was already in a spin. Jay helped him. Jay Shepherd had helped him just do the rest with nowhere to go. And it's seen absolute chaos in the midfield with everyone trying to take avoiding action. And sadly, Axel Sawyers is going to drop down the field. Jake Shepherd went off on the early stages of that first lap after receiving some contact. He's now into 10th place, so he has started his recovery. Riley Phillips leads though. Andy Dawson coming under pressure in 2nd place. He's very close for 3rd place as well between Piers Stockton and Max Leonard. Here is Andy Dawson. Behind him though, it's even closer with Piers Stockton and Max Leonard. Kemping is in 5th place. Then it is Dave Farrow in 6th. Philippe Loriquet, if we have a look at him, he's having a good start to this race. He is currently in 7th and challenging for 6th. So from 2nd all the way down to the about 9th place, I'd say it is all to play for, Guillaume.
De la course 1, mais cette fois-ci il est parvenu à se maintenir en tête et à creuser l'écart dans ce premier tour. Il n'y en aura que 3 rendez-vous à disputer tout au long de cette épreuve compte tenu de la longueur du circuit. Attention, 9 là-bas, il y a contact et 3 voitures impliquées, Tom Kemping et Dave Farrow, et je pense qui s'est infiltré là-bas, c'était Philippe Loriquet qui est parvenu à s'infiltrer là-bas dans le chaos, dans l'accrochage entre les deux et à gagner 2 positions, semble-t-il. Non, il a rétrogradé dans la hiérarchie. Le voilà, Philippe Loriquet, malheureusement le numéro 372. Ah non, plus haut, pardon. On revient avec Xavier Veil. La pression de la part de Xavier sur Jay Shepherd qui a pris l'avantage. Et attention à l'accrochage avec Xavier Veil et Shepherd qui partent tous les deux en tête à queue, et Shepherd qui se retrouve à contresens de la piste alors que Xavier est parvenu à conserver le contrôle de son niveau 3. C'était très très serré là-bas, mais les deux sont partis surmonter un des vibreurs, ce qui a fait perdre le contrôle de sa machine à Jay Shepherd, semble-t-il. Et il perd gros de l'aventure puisque c'était une bagarre pour la 6e position. Jay Shepherd se retrouve en 9e place.
Wow, what timing that was to come to Jay Shepherd. Unfortunately, bit of an off for him. He's having a bit of an eventful race so far, and Jay Shepherd, it's not going to be so easy for him now. He's got going either. He finds himself now under pressure in 10th. But let's go for a full run through of where we are, as we are exactly halfway through this race. 1.5 laps down, 1.5 to go. Riley Phillips is your leader. He got himself a gap early in this race from pole position, and that pole position came from the fact that he'd dropped down to the back of the grid from pole position in race 1, fought his way back through to 6th to grab reverse grid pole, and Riley taking advantage now with a 5.6 second gap over 2nd place, who is Piers Stockton. However, Piers' gap to Max Leonard, who runs in 3rd, was over 2 seconds at the start of this lap, but Max Leonard in that very colourful colour scheme there, he is now closing in that number 50 car, race 1 and championship leader. Andy Dawson having a fantastic debut, 2nd in the first race. He's 4th in this one, in the fight for the podium. This is what he did in the first race, just kept himself in the fight and then picked up the pieces when all fell apart ahead of him. I feel the same could happen in this race should Max Leonard close in on Piers Stockton. A whole 15 seconds, if we're rounding up behind, is Tom Kemping. Here he is, and just having a little bit of words with the barrier, as did Xavier Ville. Xavier, Guillaume, having a very good race there in 6th. We'll talk a little bit more about Xavier when we've gone through our run through. For now, let's continue and bring you up to speed with who is where. Dave Farrow currently sits in 7th place. He was 4th in the first one. He's doing pretty good in this one, with a chance to make at least a couple more positions, you'd have to say. In 8th place, next along then, is Ian Verimans. Ian running in 8th place, 5 seconds to the driver ahead of him, 2 seconds to the one behind him, who is Jay Shepherd, having a bit of an eventful 2nd race, but still somehow in the top 10. Next along is David Chatelain. He currently rounds out your top 10. David Chatelain running roughly where he was in the first race. Eric Steinlein is then in 11th place. Eric trying to chase down a top 10 finish. 3.5 seconds back from Eric is Philippe Loriquet. Philip, though, as we have a look at him now, is under all sorts of pressure from the dark blue coloured car of Axel Sawyers, and Axel Sawyers trying to make his way back up the order after earlier troubles, and he pulls side by side with Lodike here. He's going to be on the outside, unfortunately, as we come to this right-hander, and being on the left of the circuit means he's going to be at a slight disavow, and there we go, contact. Axel Sawyers just coming across there, Philippe Lodike, and it's turned out worse for Axel Sawyers, who was trying to make that move, and he is now going to drop down the order. He did have 21 seconds over Besson. He gets going again as next behind him, and probably not too far behind him now is Mathis Besson, who has company in the shape of Pierre-Andre Guillaume. Pierre-Andre Guillaume making that move and going through. Schinkel is then in 16th place, and then we have Perez, Richard, Alstein, and Spittals. But we have just had a drop from Dave Farrow. Not too sure what's going on there. Let's quickly run through the rest of the drivers before we pick that one up. So 16th place is then Schinkel. He's 5.3 behind this, and then behind that we have Nico Perez. Nico Perez in 17th with close company. Oh, and Perez is gone. So just a wheel on the grass there, and Perez has gone round. And going ahead of him now is Gerald Richard. You would have seen Gerald Richard just making his way around the carousel. Lancelot Alstein is then in 19th place. We'll have a look at him now. And just behind him in the background, that, as we have a look, is Stephen Spitthouse. So I'm not too sure what's happened to Dave Farrow. I don't know if he's disconnected from the race or picked up a penalty. Whatever's happened, fortunately, Dave Farrow appears to be out of this race. Good news for Dave Farrow. Let's go and have a look at him now. A connection issue for him earlier in the race, unfortunately, dropped him out. He was running in a solid 7th place at the time, having finished 4th in race 1. Dave Farrow, unfortunately, dropped out of the race after a connection issue, but he is now back. Good for him. Dave Farrow is going to take the checkered flag despite some issues this evening, and he, I'm sure, will be very proud of what he has achieved this evening with some fantastic results and good points on the board after that brilliant 4th place in race 1. But it's getting closer for second. Let's go back to that fight, because Max Leonard is getting closer to Piers Stockton, Guillaume, and if he can be in the tow by the time they make their way onto the back straight, then there is a very good chance it could be a drag to the line when we come out of the final corner between Piers and Max, because Riley Phillips is already on the back straight. He hit it 8 seconds ago, and he is now making his way up towards taking race victory. Riley Phillips, it's been a fantastic comeback from him. It's been a good evening overall, it has to be said, given the troubles he had in the first race. He qualified pole for that first race, but to then come back and finish in 6th place to grab himself reverse grid pole was a fantastic achievement, and he's taken advantage of that reverse grid pole position by getting himself into a comfortable race lead as he is coming up to the final few corners. This will be a fight we'll pick up after we see Riley cross the line, but he's not far away now, is Riley Phillips, as he comes up towards the final couple of corners. So far this season, it's been 2 second-place finishes and a 6th, but for the first time in the new Virtual Funcup European Winter Series, Riley Phillips is going to take his first win as he comes across the line, and he stands on the top step of the podium. It was only a matter of time, and Riley Phillips is a winner. Piers Stockton will be 2nd, Max Leonard will be 3rd, Andy Dawson will be in 4th place. This, though, Guillaume, a fight between Xavier Ville and Jay Shepherd, which could go to the line.
Et voilà la dernière bataille certainement de cette épreuve. Xavier Veil, Jay Shepherd, la bataille pour la 8e place. Il ne reste plus que quelques virages alors que Riley Phillips a franchi la ligne d'arrivée en vainqueur de cette 2e épreuve. À bord avec Jay Shepherd, est-ce que le pilote britannique va pouvoir tenter de surprendre son adversaire jusque dans les derniers virages, la dernière ligne droite? Oh, le perte de contrôle pour Jay Shepherd et accrochage entre Xavier Veil et Jay Shepherd. Les voilà qui partent en tête à queue. Incontrôlé. Ah, quel désastre malheureusement pour Veil et Jay Shepherd. Vont-ils pouvoir repartir? Xavier Veil qui se remet en marche, qui reprend le cours de la course. Est-ce que Jay Sheppel va pouvoir? Oui, il repart, mais perd deux positions. Catastrophe pour Jay Sheppel qui voit passer devant lui Eric Stellin et Philippe. Juste derrière, Philippe Lorecki qui prend le devant également. Et Jay Sheppel qui perd 2 positions de l'aventure. What a disaster for Jay Sheppel. Just a couple of corners before the checkered flag, Chris.
Absolute disaster, a real strange incident there. Just as he was trying to go down the inside, it was just the faintest of contacts, and it had a huge effect. Tom Kemping was 5th, Ian Verriman 6th. Behind that then we have David Chatelain in 7th, Eric Steinlein in 8th, Philippe Lodiquet 9th, Jay Sheppard 10th, Xavier Viau 11th, Axel Soyez 12th. We just see here Mathis Besson come across the line to finish 13th. Pierre-Andre Guillaume is going to lead home Gerald Richard in the fight for 14th place. Then another 22 seconds back will be Lancelot Alstein, and here he comes into the final 2 corners now. We haven't seen much of him tonight, but Lancelot Alstein getting quicker all the time. Will he be one to watch going into the latter stages of the season? He comes into across the line to finish 16th. Behind that in 17th place, another driver we haven't seen much of, but more points on the board. 17th place it'll be for Christoph Schinkel. Finishing in 18th place, he's just about to make his way out the final corner. And well, he's had an off, in fact. Nico Perez, has he had a little bit of an off coming up to the line? It appears he hit some sort of problems there. Nico Perez will come across in 18th place. Dave Farrow was the other car to take the flag, albeit a lap down, and Stephen Spittals will be the last of the finishers on the same lap in 19th place, Guillaume.